Could I have Ubuntu Men's Chorus please come forward? If you have your programs, does everybody have a program? Yes. Okay, great. We're starting out with Somagwaza. That's what it says there. And this is an initiation song for when young men become men. And they go off with their fathers and uncles, and they go away out into the woods for a long period of time, and then they come back in singing this piece, and it goes on for days. We're not going to enact that part. But anyway, so that's where Somagwaza comes from. It comes from South Africa, and yeah, so here we go.
I see the sunrise in your eyes that you see in mine, but we're worlds apart, worlds apart. I see the same stars through my window that you see through yours, but we're worlds apart, worlds apart. And I see the same skies through brown eyes that I see through blue, but we're worlds apart, worlds apart. Just like the earth, just like the sun, two worlds together are better than one. I see the friendship in your eyes that you see in mine, but we're worlds apart, worlds apart, together, but worlds apart. And the mockingbird sings in an old yonder tree. Twa-li-ah-dee-dee-da-dee-dee-dee. Shine on me, shine on me. I wonder if the lighthouse will shine on me. Oh, shine on me, shine on me. I wonder if the lighthouse will shine on me. Shine the light shining above. Is it shining above in the heavens for me? I wonder and wonder if the lighthouse will shine above in the heavens for me. Oh, shine the light shining above. Is it shining above in the heavens for me? I wonder and wonder if the lighthouse will shine on me. Will it shine on me? Oh, shine, shining above. Will it shine on me? I wonder and wonder if the lighthouse will shine above in the heavens.
Okay. This is one of my favorite songs. Not because of the occasion that it was written, but it's one of my favorite songs.
Who will help me?
So everyone, when I brought this piece to the men, they said, it was so spontaneous. It said, we want to sing this because we don't want children locked away in cages. And that's where they went with this piece. It was originally written by a man who worked in Sarajevo, and a hospital was bombed. He's a nurse. A hospital was bombed when he went off to lunch with the other people that were working, and when they came back, the hospital was bombed. And he's not a musician. He's not really, you know, it's not his forte to sit and compose, but he had to because of the experience. And this is his only piece. This is what came forth. So we want to be able to weave this piece with some creativity from the men, and so I want to share, we're in process with this as well. We're trying to work on perfecting this for when the Harvard Men's Glee Club come. But, so we had 2 guys who were working on it, and then 4, and then 1 disappeared. And in the long run, and the short run, 4 people came together to let you know the direction that we're moving in. So I want to invite them forward to sing for you now.
Hello. Buenas noches. When we were talking about this, Dr. Roma always pushes us for excellence. But she just looked at me when she wanted it done. But I said, you know, she always brings out the Puerto Rican, not the Puerto Rican out of me. So we got together to work this piece out, and I want to thank my brothers for coming together. This is a little teaser. We're working on putting it together. It's in Spanish, but I like you to feel the joy and the feeling behind it. Because, you know, music is universal. So as long as you can transfer that feeling, you can feel it. And I want to thank my brothers because I just got over a cold. So I wasn't able to sing well, but Dr. Roma pushes us, and I said, well, we're going to do this no matter what. So, you know. So this is dedicated to her and Dr. King, because I know that Dr. King, I did not know. I always thought that this was about African Americans, and as she always wrote the literature, and I started to read the books, he was fighting for everybody's rights. You know, not just blacks, but Hispanics, Orientals, and they really, it's like, you know, wow, I get this guy. So I wanted to share this with you. I hope that you will enjoy it. But it's only a little teaser. All right, you guys ready?
Yeah, Dalito. Pueden oír la oración de los niños arrodillados en la sombra de la oscuridad, ojos vacíos, sin más lágrimas para llorar, mirando al cielo, buscando la luz, rogando que Dios me ayude para ver la luz de un nuevo día una vez más. Pero si me muero en esta noche, ruego que Dios reciba mi alma. Pueden sentir el corazón de los niños buscando su hogar, sí, su propio hogar, levantando sus manos sin nada que sentir, esperando por un propio día una vez más. Pero si me muero en esta noche, ruego que Dios reciba mi
speaker? No, okay. All right. Sylvie. Z. Everyone, Dr. Molly Stone came here from Chicago. She's a world music expert, and she does all kinds of music from everywhere. And this is an arrangement of Sylvie that she put together. And at one time, when we were learning it, we all kind of, sort of danced. But a lot of people forgot it and got shy, besides, except Z. And so I want to welcome Z. And otherwise, we're doing Sylvie. Thank you, Z. We've made up other verses because we've been singing for Dr. King. We've been singing at the Women's March on the 18th in Dayton, and so we have these other verses that we slip in there. But how many of you know the amazing 3 verses of Lift Every Voice and Sing? And I'm not talking about necessarily you singing it. I'm asking you, do you know, open your programs. I'm the teacher now. Open your program, and there are 3 amazing verses. How many of you know kind of the distillation and the meaning of those 3 verses? Because we have a historian in our midst who would come and just talk for a minute. If you'd like to learn a little bit, are you open to that? Okay. This is Dr. Kevin Magruder, teaches history at Antioch College. I'm throwing a curve at him, but he's done it before.
Good evening. Lift Every Voice and Sing was written in 1900. And most people connected with James Weldon Johnson. He went on to become the head of the NAACP. He wrote the words, but his brother, J. Rosamond Johnson, wrote the lyrics. They were from Jacksonville, Florida. At the time that James Weldon Johnson wrote this music, he was principal of an all-black school in Jacksonville. And he wrote it for a celebration of the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, which happened in February, which is why Black History Month is in February. It was performed by a group of school children, probably about 300 school children. And the song is a song that tells a story of African Americans throughout the history. And so if we look at that first verse, lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Even though this nation has oppressed black people have held this nation to be accountable to its vision, that all men are created equal. And that's what that first verse is. It's really giving voice to people who, even in slavery, saw that this should be a nation of freedom. And they were able to push and create their own momentum for freedom. That second verse, it's a verse that is telling the real story of African Americans. So when people look at Dr. King and the King holiday, they focus so much on the I Have a Dream speech. That's at the end of that speech. What that speech is about is the same thing, holding America accountable. He starts out that speech saying, we have come here today, it's the March on Washington, there's 200,000 people in front of him. He says, America has given us a check that bounced that we have come to collect. That second verse is talking about that. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening ride, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. It's 1900. Reconstruction is over. Those black people who were voted, who were in the Senate and Congress, they've been driven out. Jim Crow is all throughout the South. He's in Jacksonville, so he knows that. That's what that verse is about. And then the rest of it, we have come treading a path through the blood of the slaughter. This is the height of lynching. Black people could be killed just because. He has school children singing this because black people want their children to know the world they're living in. And that's what that is doing in Jacksonville, Florida in 1900. And then that last verse, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears. A lot of times people don't understand why faith has been so important to black people. They think we've been bamboozled, those of us who are Christian. But what they don't understand is black people took that Christian story and we made it our own. And so even though some Christians aren't behaving as Christians, black people saw the liberatory message of Jesus. Jesus really was for liberation. He came for the oppressed, to redeem, and free the captives. That's what he's talking about in that third verse, that God of our weary years, God of our silent tears. And so this song, he wrote it for that assembly. He didn't write it for anything else. He went on and did other things. He was a lawyer. His brother, who wrote the music, went on and did other things, but the children picked this up. And so it was sung at the beginning of events. And I grew up in the 60s, and that's what we were singing. We usually only sang the first verse. But those other two verses are really important to understand what the full song is. And so by the time James Weldon Johnson was head of the NAACP in the 1920s, by that time, this had already been adopted as the Black national or the Negro national anthem is what it would have been called then. And so it remains that today. And this arrangement by Roland Carter, I think in some ways it's kind of renewed the energy, because you can sing a song so much that you don't listen to the words anymore. And that's hard to, I think you will find it hard to do if we articulate, as Dr. Roma, enunciate our words as she wants us to do. You'll hear them, and it really resonates. So this is it's a song that has definite meaning for the world we're living in today. And so, thank you.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Kevin Magruder. Everybody, you're welcome to join us for the first verse, because you're going to know the first verse, and it's also pretty much in unison, the men, the tenors, I should say, and the tenors and the basses. So then you can remain standing, but probably it gets a little complicated for you to sing.
Till the
Everybody, the next piece we're singing is called Spiritual, and it was written by Dr. Issei Maria Barnwell, who's actually been here, right? She used to sing with the group called Sweet Honey in the Rock, and this piece she wrote, I want you to listen to the words, and we've changed some of the words, and we got her permission. But she had the experience that she was talking to a friend, and this friend was the mother of a daughter who the mother went to take her child to a bus stop to go to school and walked back, and in the blink of an eye, a car mowed that child down and the child died. And so that's what the song is about, but we've changed some of it because it's a contemporary piece for everybody who's felt that. Can't no one know at sunrise how the day is going to end? Can't no one know at sunset if the next day will begin? Can't no one know at sunrise how this day is going to end. Can't no one know at sunset if the next day will begin. And I'm telling you, can't no one know at sunrise Christopher. David, do you mind if we do another song or two, and then the floor is yours? I want to hear it. Okay. All right, we're going to do two songs, both featuring Christopher, okay? Is that all right with you? Everybody? Okay, let's do, we're going to do, everybody, we're going to do City Call Heaven.
Seen your brothers in a while. Like, why didn't you come and see me, man? I'm sorry. You know how much I love to smile. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
We're doing City Call Choir. Just play that tenor note.
A poor pilgrim of sorrow. I am left in this old wide world, this old wide world, all alone, and I ain't got no hope for, got no hope for tomorrow. I'm trying to make it, make heaven my home. Oh, sometimes I'm driven low, and sometimes I just don't know which way to turn. But I heard of a city called heaven, and I'm trying to make it, make heaven, make it my home. Oh, sometimes I'm tossed and I'm driven Lord. Then sometimes I just don't know which way to turn. But I heard of a
You are going to pick up the melody because we repeat it a lot, okay? And we mostly are singing the melody, so please join us because it has to do with change, it has to do with making a difference. And so if you look at it, we sing it 3 times at the beginning, and then we change from I'll make the difference to we'll make the difference. So please feel free. You can stand up and join us if you get it. Okay.
I'm the one who can make the difference, yes. I will make the difference against all odds. I can live to share my love with others, oh yes. I will make the difference. I can make it. Take my hand as we make this journey across the land.
I'm the one who can make the difference, yes. I will make the difference against all odds. I can live to share my love with others, yes. I will make the difference. I will make it.
Take my hand as we make this journey across the land. I had the courage to keep going on. I had the faith when all hope was gone. I had the strength to keep holding on. Yes, I can, 'cause I'm the one who can make the difference, yes. I will make the difference against all odds. I can live to share my love with others, yes. I will make the difference. I will make it. Take my hand as we make this journey across the land. I had the courage to keep going on. I had the faith when all hope was gone. I had the strength to keep holding on. Yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. 'Cause I'm the one who can make the difference, yes. I will make the difference against all odds. I can live to share my love with others, yes. I will make the difference. Why don't you take my hand as we make this journey across the land? We're the ones who can make the difference, yes. We will make the difference
So please put your hands together for...
No need to stand up. Good evening. Good evening. It's really a blessing to be here. Thank you so much. I had to fight getting out of downtown and the traffic, but I'm so glad that I made it. I wouldn't have missed this for anything. I love and respect you and the work that you do, and I just enjoyed listening to the music. And thank you for everybody who opened their mouths to sing tonight. I'm glad I got to hear a little bit of it. I want to talk about the importance of hope. It's really important to be hopeful. And there's a lot that sometimes weighs us down and keeps us from being hopeful. And I know I don't have to tell anybody who will not leave with us tonight as we go home to our families that it's challenging to be hopeful when you're behind bars. I struggle with being hopeful when I think about mass incarceration and how it is destroying our communities, not just impacting individuals, but destroying a community. In the past 40 years, our prison population has exploded by 500%. 500% since the late 70s. We, and by we I mean the United States, we lead the world in incarceration rates. We currently have 2.3 million people in prisons and jails across the country, but I said we lead the world in incarceration rates. For every 100,000 people in the United States, 655 are behind bars right now. Russia is fourth with 383 per 100,000, and China, which is a lot bigger than, it's 3 times bigger than the United States population-wise, they are number 8. They're number 8 at 118 per 100,000. 5% of the world's population comes from the United States. But what percentage are we of the prison population? 25%. 25%. I haven't even talked yet about the racial impact of the way that our incarceration frenzy works here. And obviously, whether you are black, brown, white, being locked up's hard. So it's hard for everybody behind bars. But if you were black and brown, you were far more likely to be behind bars for the same conduct. White and black people use drugs at the same rates. And yet you're 3 times more likely to be incarcerated for that same behavior if you are a person of color. So that gives me reason sometimes to be feeling despair. The way that we punish, we over-punish. And it's not just for people, all the politicians talk about, well, we shouldn't lock up people for nonviolent, low-level drug offenses. I'm so sick of hearing that because most of the people who are in prison are not serving time for low-level, nonviolent drug offenses. It's because they're serving time for more serious, violent offenses. And I believe with everything I have in me that we over-punish people who've committed more serious offenses. That's why we lead the world in incarceration. It's not because we lock up too many people who are low-level nonviolent drug, who commit nonviolent drug offenses. It's because we lock up for too long people who can be home safely. They've been punished, they've learned their lesson, they can come home and contribute. And you keep them locked up and we warehouse them, sometimes for decades, away from their family and friends and community. So that weighs on me. And I haven't even talked about all the other things that weigh on me in this time that we live in, like the climate, like the fact that the people who pass our laws, our federal laws in Washington, D.C., we're so divided, we can't get along, we're name-calling all the time. That weighs on me too. But it's essential that I not just talk about the things that weigh on me, but how I've found ways to be hopeful. And so recently, I had a moment to think about what hope means to me. And my family, my wife and I, and our daughter, were in Washington, D.C. over the holidays. And we went to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. It's been around for almost 4 years now. Hard to get into. It's the museum that everybody wants to go to. And we started at the first exhibit. You got to go. It's an 8 or 10-story building that's on the National Mall. You can see the Washington Monument when you're there. And you start down underground, though, at the very bottom. And that first exhibit is on the Middle Passage. Raise your hand if you know what the Middle Passage is. Okay. And if you don't know what the Middle Passage is, I'm going to talk about it for a moment, because I knew about it, but the impact of seeing that exhibit really hit me. The Middle Passage refers to that months-long journey by sea that the 15 million or so Africans who were taken from the west coast of Africa to the Americas and Caribbean to be enslaved. It refers to their journey across the Atlantic Ocean, the Middle Passage. Loaded onto ships, hundreds of Africans put below deck, chained at the wrist, one leg shackled to the person next to you, in those cramped, dirty, dark conditions for months. Imagine being confined that way, lying in your own excrement. Disease ran rampantly throughout those decks below. And an estimated 15%, more than 2 million, who knows the exact number, died during that voyage from Africa to the Americas. I left that museum that afternoon with my family. I left traumatized by what I saw. As I said, I knew about the Middle Passage, but just looking at all those exhibits really hit me hard. I was traumatized, but I was also hopeful. And I was proud. Because my ancestors survived something that was unthinkable. They made it somehow. And what was that something that let them make it? I think hope played a part of it, faith played a part of it, and they made it. And when I think about all the things I complain about on a daily basis, and there are lots of things I complain about, my problems, small compared to their problems. They don't even belong in the same conversation. So after that experience that afternoon, a little more than a month ago, I started thinking about the things that keep me hopeful. And I want to just tell you about a few of them. My family keeps me hopeful. I think we cannot go on without loved ones. And I hope that everybody here, I'm speaking mostly to the people who, again, don't get to leave when I leave tonight, that you're connected somehow to family, and if you're not connected to biological family, that you have other family in the sense of people who love you and care about you. Because without that, I don't have any hope. And I'm grateful for my family, not just my wife and my daughter, but my extended family and my community of people who care about me and love me. I am hopeful because of the men and the women in DRC facilities that I am privileged to represent. I am privileged to fight for you. And whether I represent you all as individuals or if it's a class action that we bring, it's a joy to do this work because I get to represent human beings who keep me hopeful. Human beings who keep me hopeful. I will, some of you have heard of Tyra Patterson. She's a woman that we walked out of prison on Christmas morning, 2017. You heard about her. And we had a 5-year fight to free her. I'm not going to go into the details of her case. Her case happened to be an actual innocence case. And you're going to, by the time you're done, you're going to know that I care about actual innocence cases, but I also care about freeing people who did exactly what the government said they did, or maybe they did part of it, and they still need to be freed too. So we're going to come back to that. But along the journey with Tyra, there were times when she literally kept me going when I thought we were at a dead end. And one of those times was when we had to deal with a bad decision we had got from the parole board that was not going to recommend that she get clemency. And I had to go and see her and look her in the eye and tell her on a Friday night in November of 2013, it looks like we have a much more difficult climb to make right now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And you know what she said to me? She said, with tears in her eyes, David, I've taken a punch before. I've been locked up 18 years, and it's been hard. I can take a punch. I just want to make sure you're okay right now, that you're okay. How can you not dust yourself off and the next day be ready to go right back at it again when your client shows so much love, the person you're serving shows so much love for you? That keeps me hopeful. I could tell story after story about hope I get from you. So thank you for keeping me hopeful. Faith keeps me hopeful. Faith is hope. Martin Luther King once said of faith, faith is taking that next step even when you can't see the whole staircase. It was a leap of faith in April of 2019, just last year, a few months ago, when we started this new project, Beyond Guilt. As I said, I spent 5 years fighting to free Tyra Patterson, and I gave her everything I had. And it wasn't just me, it was other people too. We gave her everything we had. But what about the vast majority of prisoners who are just as deserving of a second chance? Just as deserving. I said just as deserving. I don't mean less deserving because they may have done or did what the government said they did. I mean just as deserving because they're human beings, they're God's children, And we ought to do what we can to try and free them. So we were sitting around the conference room saying, let's start, because we kind of got tired of all the attention going to the Innocence Project that does important work. The Innocence Project does very important work. No question about it. We got the best one in Ohio. Very best one in Ohio at UC Law School. But I think when we focus exclusively on people who are innocent, we throw a whole bunch of people under the bus. And we were tired of that. And tongue in cheek, we said, let's start the Guilty Project. Let's start the Guilty Project. And we were for a minute going to name it the Guilty Project. But then we were like, no, we should probably not call it that. Let's call it, we were thinking about that. I liked it. But we then said, you know what? Let's call it Beyond Guilt. I actually wasn't the one who thought of the name. It was one of my staff who thought of the name. And the whole point of that is it relates to something that Brian Stevenson and Sister Helen Prejean, for those of you who know, Sister Helen is somebody who advocates against death penalty, and Brian Stevenson of Just Mercy, great lawyer, one of the best on this planet. You know, they're fond of saying that we are all so much more than the worst thing we've done. And we need, as a society, as a community, to find a way to move beyond that label of guilt that society puts on us. Got to move beyond it. And so that's the idea for the name, Beyond Guilt. And what that project does is it says, let's figure out how to get people out who admit some level of guilt. Doesn't have to be to everything the government said, but some level of it. Who've been in a significant portion of time and can demonstrate through their conduct and programming that they've been rehabilitated. So there were lots of people who said, that's crazy. You're never going to get people released. You're never going to get society to buy into freeing guilty people. And guess what? Yeah, guess what? We have not only, well, here's the first part of the guess what. In terms of who supports us, we've gotten prosecutors to support us. Who is sentenced from Hamilton County? All right. The same Joe Dieters, who I argue with a lot over things, the same Joe Dieters who has talked about or bragged about sending more people to death row than any other prosecutor, the same Joe Dieters who has talked about, in order to speed up executing people, let's just drop them off buildings because it takes too long to go through the normal channels. That same Joe Dieters, who by the way, when I begged him, or asked him, I wasn't begging, but I asked him to go and meet Tyra Patterson and then go to the mat for the governor, for her, he did that, actually. He did it. And that same Joe Dieters said, I love the idea for Beyond Guilt because we do overpunish too many people. And so, who knows who Angelo Robinson is? Remember Angelo Robinson? Okay, he, back in as late as August, was here. What's that? You call him man? Yeah, I think he did tell me that's what he goes by. Yeah, man. Yeah, man went home. He went home. Man, in 1997, when he was 20, was selling drugs in the West End of Cincinnati. And he was selling drugs with 5 other people. They got robbed that afternoon, and Angelo was behind a bedroom door when suddenly gunshots went off. He had a gun, he had crack cocaine that he was guarding, and gunshots went off. They were getting robbed. He thought he was about to lose his life and fired 3 shots through the bedroom door and killed his friend, Veronica Jackson. He went off to, after going to trial and turning down a manslaughter plea, he went to trial, lost, and got hammered, 29 years to life. He was not going to see the parole board until 2026. And what happens when you go up to the parole board the first time? Yeah, they flop you. Yeah, they flop you. And for those who don't know what a flop is, it means they don't let you out and they say, come back. And maybe they give you 5 years, maybe they could give you 10 years, maybe they give you somewhere in between. And we're like, enough. We're going to get around this parole board somehow. And what we did was we sat down and we had a conversation with the prosecutor's office and we said, how about let's go back to the court, see if we can get the court to take jurisdiction again over the case, and let's undo his murder conviction, let him plead to manslaughter, and give him time served. And we were able to make that happen. And since then, we've gotten 10 people out. And just today, we got another person out. Kayed Salam, and he was convicted of murder, and this morning pled to a manslaughter, and he had served 13 years, and he's going home. And this isn't just limited, by the way, to Hamilton County. We haven't yet met with all the 88 prosecutors. And there are going to be some prosecutors who are going to say, oh no, never. That will happen. We will have some prosecutors who will fight us. But the prosecutors in the biggest counties in the state so far are very open to this project. I've met with the Lucas County prosecutor, Julia Bates, and she said this is a wonderful idea. And by the way, her staff sent us a case to look at. Cuyahoga County prosecuting attorney thought this was great, and we're working right now to free a woman. That's our test case up in Cuyahoga County, and we'll do some others hopefully. Franklin County sat and had a conversation with Ron O'Brien, and we're trying to build a movement. We want to build a movement where we get people out who have committed serious crimes, and then they soar. Man, or as I know him, Angelo Robinson, he is soaring in Cincinnati. He is doing so well. We are proud of him. All he keeps saying to me is, I want to make you proud. And I keep saying, you've already made me proud. Don't worry about me. Just you live your life. That's why we fought for you. Live your life. Don't worry about me. Live your life. And he's soaring. And we want to tell those stories of redemption so that we can change the hearts and minds of the people in Ohio who make laws that are overly punitive. So that's beyond guilt. That's beyond guilt. I hope for you that hearing about this project does give you some hope. I hope it does. I really do. This project, we're not going to be able to represent every single person who writes this. We've got 1,200 people right now on a waiting list. So it's going to take us time to get through everyone. And we're trying to build an army of lawyers who will volunteer their time to help us with this. But our goal is to transform sentencing. Our goal is to create new mechanisms to get back to court that don't have to be, asking for a new trial where there's no new evidence, or it would be great if you had a life sentence, if after a certain period of time, that sentence could be reviewed to see how you're doing, how you've been doing. And if you've been doing well, you get a shot. That's what we're going to be working on. So we will represent individuals, but we're also trying to change the way the whole system works. I just want to say this before I sit down. We at OJPC, the thing that keeps us going every day, are you. That's what keeps us going. We see your humanity. We see you. We see you as people, not as numbers. We see you as fathers, brothers, sons, uncles, nephews, cousins. And we may be frustrating sometimes to those of you who are trying to get, I hear about this guy, David Singleton. I write him. He's just, I'm losing faith in him. I apologize if you feel that way, because that's not how we want you to feel. But just know that we do this because we care. We love you, we care about you, and we will do whatever we can to give you hope, but not just hope, to free you. Stay hopeful, stay hopeful, stay hopeful.
I choose